Ever wonder what happens when a rookie cop's bias meets a black FBI agent in the street? 1 second, he thinks he's in control. The next, his whole life is destroyed. You won't believe how fast hate and racism can cost someone their badge, their job, and millions of dollars. Before we start the story, tell me, where are you watching from? And if these stories speak to you, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Man, let me tell you, you don't realize how fast a regular day can spiral into chaos until you see it happen live, right in front of you. Malik Carter, a black FBI agent, was just getting out of his car after a long-ass assignment downtown, bags in hand, thinking he was going to make it to his ride without a scene. But rookie cop Derek Lawson? Nah, he had other plans. Lawson pulled up like he owned the damn block, chest puffed out, shiny badge glinting in the sun. Thinking he was some kind of hero straight out of one of those cop shows. And the moment he saw Malik, his brain went haywire. No warning, no reason. Just his gut and his deep-seated bias screaming, "This dude's trouble." Lawson barked orders that cut through the street like a damn whip. "Stop right there. Don't move." And then, just like that, he started reaching for his gun. Malik froze, calm but alert, hands up, trying to talk the dude down. "Yo, chill out, officer. I'm FBI. I ain't doing nothing wrong," Malik said, his voice calm but laced with tension. His eyes locked on Lawson's every twitch, reading the rookie like a book, every shaky hand, every micro-expression showing bias and overconfidence. The crowd started noticing, pulling out phones, whispering, some stepping back, others leaning in, feeling the insane tension thick in the air. Malik's badge caught the sunlight, proof of authority, but to Lawson, didn't matter. Derek's brain was on autopilot, scanning every detail, skin color, posture, confidence. Everything screamed threat in his head, and he muttered some low-key racial jab under his breath, thinking nobody could hear, thinking he had the right to escalate a federal agent's life in a second. Malik stayed calm, didn't flinch, didn't step back. Every inch he held ground was a silent middle finger to Lawson's ignorance. But the rookie couldn't handle it. He stepped closer, too close, voice trembling with nerves and arrogance. "Hands where I can see 'em," he barked, fumbling with his holster, fingers brushing the weapon like he was itching for an excuse. The crowd's whispers turned into murmurs, then small gasps. Phones lifted, recording the ridiculousness. Everybody could feel it. The tension, the fear, the raw power imbalance. Malik's calm professionalism made the rookie's bias even more glaring. This wasn't just a traffic stop gone wrong. This was a full-blown display of racism in uniform. One wrong move and Malik's life could have ended before anyone even blinked. And it got worse. Lawson shoved Malik slightly, not enough to hurt, but enough to show he ran the street. Malik's calm didn't falter. He measured every second, every movement, knowing that any overreaction from him could be spun against him. The crowd sensed it too, their eyes darting between Malik and the rookie, feeling the tension like a damn electric current. Lawson's bias wasn't subtle. It oozed from every pore. Every glare, every twitch, every time he considered Malik dangerous, purely because of skin color, screamed extreme racism. And the street? It was more than asphalt that day. It was a battlefield. The air thick with fear, the smell of tension, the silent judgment from bystanders witnessing pure, reckless authority. Malik's colleagues were nearby, phones out, recording every second, knowing that this wasn't just a scene. It was a scandal waiting to blow up. Malik's presence alone challenged Lawson's sense of control. Calm, disciplined, confident, the kind of presence that demanded respect. But Lawson? He refused it. He thought his badge, his uniform, and his rookie ego made him untouchable. He had no idea that this moment, this split-second decision fueled by bias and racism, was about to flip his entire world upside down. And that crowd? Man, they could feel it. The fear in the air, the outrage, the raw reality that racism isn't just theory. It's dangerous. It's reckless. It's in your face. Every whisper, every click of a phone, every eye watching felt like the street itself was holding its breath, waiting to see if the rookie would make a fatal mistake. Malik didn't move aggressively, didn't escalate, didn't yell. He just stood there, calm, professional, and aware that he was dealing with a biased, inexperienced cop who thought he could act above consequences. And in that moment, Derek Lawson's arrogance, his bias, his extreme racism, it was all on display for the world to see. Every second, every micro-expression, every misplaced hand on a weapon screamed, "This dude doesn't give a damn about rules, about professionalism, or about a black man's life." The street wasn't just a street that day. It was a stage for raw, unfiltered racism, reckless authority, and extreme tension that could have ended in tragedy if Malik hadn't held his ground. And everybody around knew it. The rookie's bias wasn't just dangerous, it was criminal, and it was about to cost him more than he could imagine. Yo, shit hit the fan real quick. Derek Lawson, rookie cop, wasn't just nervous anymore. He was full-blown aggressive, ego and bias fused into a weapon. Malik Carter, chill and composed, still had his hands visible, voice steady, trying to talk this kid down like he was defusing a damn bomb. "Man, you trippin'. I'm FBI. You see the badge," Malik said, cool as ice. But Derek? Nah, he didn't see authority. He saw another black dude to intimidate. Lawson leaned in, chest out, smirking like he owned the whole street, his voice cracking under adrenaline and arrogance. "Stop resisting," he barked, though Malik wasn't resisting shit. People on the sidewalk froze, phones up, capturing the madness. You could feel the tension from a block away, the kind that makes your stomach churn, makes you want to step back and just pray nobody moves wrong. Racial bias oozed off Lawson like sweat. He muttered slurs under his breath, thinking no one could hear, thinking the uniform made him untouchable. He grabbed at Malik's FBI jacket like he could yank him down, like the law was his personal tool to humiliate a black man. Malik didn't flinch, didn't step back. Every second he stood calm, confident. He was exposing the rookie's incompetence and pure hatred. The crowd around them? Man, they were tense as hell. Gasps, whispers, some recording everything on phones, others just watching wide-eyed. One woman, Clara Benson, zoomed in her camera right on Derek's hands and the way he kept twitching toward Malik's badge, making the rookie look like a damn bully caught in a spotlight. You could see the arrogance, the bias, the danger. Everybody felt it. Lawson's hand shook slightly as he fumbled with the holster. Malik's calm demeanor? That made the rookie furious. He shoved Malik again, barely enough to touch, but enough to let him know he was in charge. Malik didn't respond with anger. He didn't escalate. He just measured, every motion precise, showing everyone watching who really had control in that situation. And that control? It wasn't about muscle. It was about authority, experience, and professionalism. Malik's presence highlighted how reckless Derek Lawson's bias really was. The rookie cop, blinded by ego and racism, kept raising his voice, kept inching closer, looking for an excuse to act like a hero in his own story, while the world recorded his foolishness. The tension exploded when Malik stepped slightly aside to show his badge closer to Lawson, almost like a mirror, reflecting the rookie's ridiculousness back at him. Derek's face twisted between rage, confusion, and fear. He knew he was being watched. He knew the cameras were rolling. But pride, bias, and rookie ego? Nah, those things didn't let him back down. Not yet. People on the street were holding their breath, watching the power dynamics play out. One wrong move from Lawson, and it could have gone catastrophic. Malik didn't flinch, but the rookie was teetering on the edge, letting racism and arrogance dictate his every move. That energy, that tension, it was electric. You could see it in the trembling hands, the tight jaw, the flushed face of Derek Lawson. Extreme bias driving recklessness that could cost lives. By the time Sergeant Thompson and backup started walking toward the scene, the rookie was shaking, muttering, trying to justify his actions. But Malik, still calm, still collected, still exposing the raw, ugly reality of a racist cop thinking he could bully a black man with authority over him. The crowd? Phones everywhere. Every twitch, every shove, every racist mutter captured. The rookie's arrogance wasn't subtle. It was a live broadcast of extreme racism for the world to see. And that's the thing about moments like this. They don't just vanish. They're recorded, they're shared, and they come back to bite you. Derek Lawson had no idea that every arrogant shove, every racial slur under his breath, every wild twitch toward Malik Carter was sealing his fate. The street was witnessing pure bias, reckless authority, and extreme racism, all in real time. And trust, the fallout was coming. Man, shit got even crazier in seconds. Derek Lawson, rookie cop, was spiraling, letting his bias run wild. Every twitch, every nerve in his body screamed, "I'm in charge." He thought he could push Malik Carter around, scare him into submission like some kid on the block. Malik, calm as ever, eyes steady, hands visible, breathing measured, letting every move of the rookie be a live demonstration of arrogance, ignorance, and raw, unfiltered racism. The street was buzzing now. Phones lifted, cameras rolling, whispers turning to murmurs. Some people stepping back, some stepping closer, trying to catch every angle. You could almost feel the weight of the tension, like it was pressing down on everyone there. Derek's hand shook as he fumbled with the gun again, muttering racial slurs under his breath, thinking nobody could hear him. But Malik, he heard it all. He saw it all. And the crowd saw it too. Lawson leaned forward, chest puffed out, smirking with that mix of fear and arrogance only a rookie could carry. "Hands where I can see 'em. Don't move," he barked again, voice cracking. Malik shifted slightly. Not aggressive, just precise, showing his badge again, letting everyone around see clearly who was in authority. But Derek didn't back down. Oh nah, he shoved Malik hard this time, just enough to make a scene, to flex his perceived power over a black man who literally had more authority than him. The crowd gasped, some shouting, "Yo, chill out!" and "He's FBI, man!" Phones clicked everywhere. Clara Benson, one of the witnesses, zoomed her camera tight on Derek's face, capturing the mix of fear, rage, and bias twisting on that rookie's face. Every muttered slur, every shove, every twitch recorded. Viral material in real time. Extreme racism out in the open. No hiding, no subtlety. Just raw, reckless, dangerous bias on display for anyone watching. Malik stayed calm, steady, almost untouchable. He didn't curse, didn't raise his voice, didn't escalate. But you could see his control was strategic, measured. He let the rookie's actions expose him, let the crowd witness what happens when bias and inexperience mix with authority. Derek's arrogance was peeling back for everyone to see. And that arrogance, it was about to crush him. Backup started arriving, sirens wailing faintly in the distance, but Derek didn't notice. His focus was pure, unfiltered racism. Every inch of his posture, every flicker in his eyes screamed, "I can act above rules, above consequences." He reached for Malik's jacket again, tugging it like he had the right, ignoring the authority, ignoring the training, ignoring the cameras. Extreme bias, extreme recklessness, extreme danger. Malik finally stepped aside slightly, letting the rookie get fully exposed. His calmness contrasted sharply with Derek's frantic energy. The crowd noticed, and whispers turned to murmurs of outrage. Phones zoomed in, videos going live in real time. People around were yelling, "Yo, this kid's tripping," and "He can't do that!" The street was alive with tension, fear, and raw energy. Racism so blatant you couldn't look away. And then, the rookie pushed too far. He lunged at Malik's side, hands near the weapon, clearly trying to intimidate a man who had done nothing wrong. Malik didn't flinch, didn't react with aggression. But the crowd? Phones everywhere, people shouting, heartbeats racing. Extreme racism on display. Reckless authority in uniform. Arrogance in full color. The tension hit peak levels. Every second stretched like hours. This moment wasn't just a confrontation. It was a live lesson in bias. In what happens when a racist rookie cop thinks he can bully a black man in front of witnesses, authority, and cameras. Malik's professionalism highlighted Derek Lawson's foolishness in ways the world would see minutes later, hours later, days later. Every gasp, every phone click, every whisper from the crowd screamed the same thing. Bias is dangerous. Racism is lethal. Recklessness can kill. And right there, in the middle of the street, Malik Carter held control, patience, and power in a way Derek Lawson could never understand. But the rookie? He had no idea that every shove, every muttered slur, every twitch toward authority was recording his downfall. A downfall fueled by extreme racism, ego, and stupidity. The street had already witnessed the first act of chaos, but the fallout was just getting started. Yo, shit was about to hit a whole new level. Derek Lawson, rookie cop, was spiraling hard now. He wasn't just biased, he was reckless as hell. Every muscle in his body screamed, "I'm in charge," while every move he made screamed, "I don't give a damn who this black dude is." Malik Carter, chill as a frozen lake, was standing there like he'd been in 1,000 of these wild scenarios. Calm, but deadly aware. Hands up, voice steady, body relaxed, but eyes sharp as razors, watching every single twitch of the rookie's arrogance. The street around them? Man, it was packed with witnesses now. Phones lifted, cameras rolling, whispers turned to murmurs. Murmurs turned to shouts. People were catching every angle, every detail, every sign of blatant racism dripping off Lawson like sweat. Malik's badge gleamed in the sunlight, a symbol of authority the rookie had no right to question. But Derek couldn't see past his ego. Every shove, every muttered racial jab, every twitch toward Malik's uniform screamed extreme bias for everyone watching. Then it happened. One of Malik's colleagues, Jordan Reed, stepped closer to make sure the rookie didn't escalate further. And Derek misread the movement entirely. He jumped, hands up near his holster, muttering under his breath, "I got this. I got this. He's resisting." Nobody was resisting. Not even close. But Derek's bias had turned his brain into a weapon of chaos. Clara Benson, one of the witnesses, had zoomed in on Derek's face with her phone. Every muttered slur, every wild glance, every shove, recorded. The video quality was perfect, capturing the raw arrogance and extreme racism on display. The street started buzzing. People were yelling, "Yo, he ain't doing shit! And this kid's tripping!" Phones were clicking non-stop, streaming live. The energy was electric, almost dangerous. Derek shoved Malik harder this time, thinking he could assert dominance, thinking that being aggressive and loud meant control. Malik's calmness didn't waver, but his eyes told the story. He knew exactly how close this had come to blowing up. His presence was authority, experience, and patience stacked against reckless bias and rookie arrogance. The crowd erupted a little when Malik stepped aside to expose the full view of his FBI badge, showing the world exactly who this man was. Derek's smirk faltered, his confidence slipping as people started shouting at him, "Yo, he's FBI, man!" The tension shifted. The street that had been Derek's imagined kingdom was now a cage of exposure, with cameras catching everything. Derek tried to talk his way out, stammering, hands shaking, muttering, I thought." He was resistant, but the video captured it all. No hesitation, no missing detail. Extreme racism on full display, backed by reckless authority in uniform. The world could see him for what he was. A rookie cop faking his bias made him untouchable. Malik didn't engage. He stayed calm, collected, and completely aware of the cameras rolling. Every motion was precise, measured, making Derek's actions look childish, dangerous, and pure hatred in motion. The crowd could feel it. The raw fear, the injustice, the audacity of a racist cop thinking he could intimidate a black man with authority over him. Then backup arrived, sirens faintly wailing, a few more officers stepping in. But Derek, he wasn't thinking about that. He was still lost in his ego, still trying to assert control, still trying to justify his actions with lies and bias. Malik had already diffused the immediate danger with calm authority. But the damage was done. The street had witnessed extreme racism and reckless authority live, and it was all captured on phones, ready to go viral. And viral it went. Minutes later, clips of Derek's arrogance, shoving, and racial slurs started spreading. People couldn't believe what they were seeing. Extreme racism, a rookie cop abusing authority, a professional black FBI agent standing calm while the world watched the kid melt down. It was insane. The tension, the fear, the outrage, it all hit hard, and everyone knew one thing. Derek Lawson had crossed a line he couldn't come back from. Malik stayed calm, hands by his side, letting the rookie and the world see the truth. The crowd around them had shifted from fear to outrage, some shouting, some shaking their heads, all recording. Derek Lawson's bias had not just endangered a man's life, it had made him infamous in seconds. Extreme racism, reckless power, and raw arrogance on full display for anyone watching. The rookie didn't realize it yet, but his whole life was about to change. Man, the streets were still buzzing hours later. Phones were blowing up with clips of Derek Lawson losing it, shoving Malik Carter, muttering slurs, acting like he owned the damn city. Everywhere you looked, people were talking, sharing, gasping. Nobody could believe how blatant it was. Malik, meanwhile, stayed calm, professional, like he always does. But inside, he knew the rookie's bias had already done enough damage to reveal a lot about how reckless some cops can be when racism mixes with authority. Lawson was sweating bullets now, pacing like a cornered animal, muttering to himself. I had him. His words trailed off, voice shaky, eyes darting. Every person on the street, every camera pointed at him, every whisper in the crowd reminded him of how far he'd crossed the line. Extreme racism had never looked so stupid in real time. He tried to act tough, but his ego was cracking under the pressure, and everyone could see it. Malik's colleagues stepped in now, supporting him, keeping him calm, and making sure Derek didn't push it further. "Dude, just chill," Jordan Reed said, eyeing Lawson like he was about to snap again. Malik's hands stayed visible, calm, authority radiating off him like some kind of force field. But Derek's bias? Nah, that wasn't going anywhere. His mind was a mess, trying to justify what he'd done, thinking he was right, thinking the uniform gave him a free pass. Then came the reactions online. Videos from Clara and half the crowd were already uploaded, going viral. Every shove, every racial jab, every twitch toward Malik was being dissected. People across the city were outraged. News outlets picked it up. Social media lit on fire. Lawson's face, red with embarrassment and rage, was plastered across feeds. Extreme racism exposed for the world to see. No filters, no excuses. And the pressure? It was suffocating. His sergeant called him aside, face red, shaking his head. "You can't do this, Lawson. You can't touch a federal agent like that. You just made a huge mistake." But Derek's ego refused to absorb it. I was trying to, he was resisting," he stammered, still trying to spin the narrative, still blinded by bias. Malik had done nothing. Malik had held every ounce of authority, while Derek's racism and recklessness made him look like a damn fool. The street itself felt alive with tension. Onlookers, still holding their phones, whispering, shaking their heads, some shouting. People who had been panicked earlier were now outraged. The reality of extreme racism in uniform hit hard. This wasn't some abstract theory anymore. This was real, raw, in-your-face danger, and Derek Lawson had broadcast it to the world in minutes. Malik finally stepped aside, letting backup take over, but the crowd wasn't done. Phones still recording, voices still raising, some shouting, "He can't get away with this. Yo, look at his badge." Derek Lawson looked around, realizing maybe too late that the whole world had seen him. Sweat dripped out his face. His arrogance, his bias, his extreme racism, it was all exposed. Every shove, every muttered word, every twitch toward authority had been documented, and he couldn't take it back. By the time the police supervisor escorted Derek to a car, whispers of outrage followed him. Malik and his team collected statements, replayed footage, and prepared for the fallout. The videos alone were enough to get the rookie in serious trouble. Extreme racism, reckless authority, blatant bias, all captured for millions to see. Derek Lawson had just set himself up for the biggest consequences of his life. And trust, the street didn't forget. People were still talking hours later, sharing clips, posting reactions, debating in real time. Malik had held his ground, calm, collected, unshaken. But the rookie cop's arrogance and hatred, that was etched into the minds of everyone who witnessed it. Extreme racism had met public exposure, and the consequences were about to come fast, hard, and in a way Derek Lawson could never recover from. The energy in the air? Electric. Fear, outrage, and relief all tangled together. Everyone knew Derek Lawson's bias had gone too far, and Malik Carter, standing there, calm, professional, and powerful, showing the world exactly what happens when extreme racism is exposed in real time, showing the rookie cop and everyone watching that authority doesn't come from color or ego. It comes from discipline, patience, and integrity. Man, shit went from bad to full-blown nightmare real quick for Derek Lawson. The moment Malik Carter and his team stepped back, letting the scene cool down, the street wasn't calm, not even close. Phones were still out, clips going viral, whispers turning into shouts. People were replaying every shove, every muttered slur, every twitch of bias on that rookie's face. Extreme racism, reckless authority. It was all laid bare. No filters, no excuses, all captured in crystal clear video. Lawson was sweating bullets, pacing like a cornered animal, muttering, he was resistant. Every word sounded weak, desperate, and it only made him look worse. His ego, once puffed up like a balloon ready to burst, was deflating fast. And the crowd? Half were still staring, some shaking their heads, some whispering to each other, all watching as the rookie tried to justify himself in the face of overwhelming evidence. Malik, calm as ever, stepped aside, letting backup officers and supervisors take the lead. He didn't need to raise his voice, didn't need to argue. The video, the witnesses, the sheer authority of his presence spoke for him. But Derek? Nah, he didn't get it. His bias, his ego, his extreme racism had blinded him to reality. He was still trying to explain, still fumbling, still pretending he hadn't just humiliated himself and endangered a man who didn't even flinch under his aggression. The city's social media exploded. Within minutes, hashtags were trending. Hashtag racist cop exposed. Hashtag FBI hero. Hashtag Lawson gone. Clips from Clara Benson and dozens of bystanders were going viral, shared, retweeted, commented on. People were outraged. The comments didn't hold back. Yo, he tried to bully a black FBI agent? This is wild. This kid needs to be fired yesterday. Racism on full display. Every view, every share, every comment amplified the rookie's failure and exposed the extreme racism in uniform for the world to see. Inside the precinct, the heat was insane. Sergeant Thompson wasn't having it. He marched straight to Lawson, face red with frustration and anger. Derek, you think this is a joke? You put a federal agent at risk. You humiliated yourself, the department, and the public. Your bias is showing for the whole damn world. Derek stammered, trying to defend himself. I thought he was resistant. The words sounded hollow, weak, and pathetic, even to him. The sergeant shook his head, disgusted. You're done, rookie. Go pack your shit. Malik's team gathered statements, documented everything, and made sure the videos were preserved. Every shove, every racial slur, every reckless move was recorded in high detail. The evidence was airtight. Derek Lawson's extreme racism wasn't just exposed, it was undeniable. And the street? Everyone there had seen it. Everyone had recorded it. Everyone knew it. The crowd slowly dispersed, but the impact lingered like smoke in the air. By the end of the day, Internal Affairs was already digging in. Emails, reports, and social media posts were piling up. The rookie cop's phone blew up with messages from higher-ups, lawyers, and concerned citizens. Every single move he made was under scrutiny, and the weight of his extreme racism, reckless authority, and arrogance was hitting him like a freight train. His entire career, his credibility, even his future, all hanging by a thread. Malik, meanwhile, stayed composed the entire time. Calm, confident, professional. Every time Derek tried to lunge or argue, Malik's presence and authority highlighted the rookie's foolishness. He didn't raise his voice, didn't escalate. Just let the world see the truth. Bias in uniform is dangerous, reckless, and exposed instantly when someone stands their ground. The crowd, The witnesses and the viral videos made it clear. Derek Lawson had made a mistake too big to cover up. Extreme racism and reckless authority had collided with professionalism, and Malik had won the moment. But more than just winning the moment, Malik had created a public record, a permanent archive of how bias in uniform can play out in the real world, live, raw, uncut. And for Derek Lawson, the fear, the shame, the outrage he saw in every camera lens, every comment, every whisper, it wasn't just social humiliation. It was the beginning of a reckoning that would cost him his badge, his job, and everything he thought his uniform could protect. Extreme racism, arrogance, and reckless behavior had collided with accountability, and the fallout was unstoppable. Man, by now, Derek Lawson was straight up drowning in the shitstorm he'd created. Every single move, shove, and muttered slur had been captured, uploaded, and shared across every social platform imaginable. Phones were buzzing in his pocket, notifications exploding like fireworks, but nothing could save him. Every clip showed the same story. Rookie cop thinking his badge gave him the right to bully a black man with authority over him. Extreme racism, pure reckless arrogance. All in high def. Inside the precinct, whispers turned into heated meetings. Supervisors were pacing, shaking their heads, some muttering curses under their breath. Internal Affairs had jumped on the case before the day even ended, combing through every angle, every witness statement, and every video online. The heat wasn't just coming from the city. It was federal-level attention now, because Malik Carter wasn't just some guy on the street. He was an FBI agent, trained, disciplined, and respected. And Derek, he had just humiliated himself and the department in front of millions. Emails from lawyers and higher-ups flooded Derek's inbox. Every single message carried the same tone. Accountability, consequences, zero tolerance. His ego? Crushed. His arrogance? Exposed. The same rookie who thought he was untouchable was now a cautionary tale. He spent hours pacing his apartment, phone in hand, scrolling through the viral clips, seeing his bias and extreme racism replayed over and over. I didn't mean, he muttered, but nobody was buying it. Not the internet, not the precinct, not Malik, not anyone. Meanwhile, Malik Carter was calm as ever, professional, collected. He wasn't celebrating. He was already focused on documenting everything, filing reports, making sure the evidence was airtight. Every shove, every racial jab, every reckless move by Derek Lawson was cataloged in meticulous detail. And the public? They were watching, sharing, reacting. The outrage was massive. Extreme racism had been broadcast live, unfiltered, and everyone knew it. The firing process moved fast. Internal Affairs, supervisors, and city officials came together, reviewing the evidence, watching the clips, reading witness statements. Derek Lawson's bias was blatant, reckless, undeniable. By the end of the week, he was stripped of his badge, escorted out of the precinct, and escorted to his car under the watchful eyes of colleagues and media. Phones were flashing, reporters shouting questions, but Derek didn't answer. He couldn't. His arrogance and extreme racism had caught up with him, and the world was watching every second of his public humiliation. But the consequences didn't stop there. Malik and his legal team pursued damages, citing reckless endangerment, racial bias, and abuse of authority. The rookie cop was slapped with lawsuits that could cost him millions. His insurance, legal fees, and the lawsuits themselves added up to a nightmare scenario he'd never imagined. Derek Lawson, who once strutted around thinking his badge made him untouchable, was now facing a financial reckoning of $3.5 million. Money he didn't have, mistakes he couldn't undo, and a reputation that was destroyed forever. Meanwhile, the videos kept circulating. Social media never forgets. Every new post, every share, every retweet reinforced the story. Extreme racism in uniform. A black man standing calm under pressure. And a rookie cop exposed for all the world to see. Public outrage remained high. People demanded reforms, accountability, and training, using Derek's mistake as proof that bias in law enforcement could have deadly consequences. Malik, though, stayed the same, calm professional. He didn't gloat, didn't brag, didn't even raise his voice. He let the evidence speak, let the public see. Let the rookie cop and the world understand exactly what happens when extreme racism meets reckless authority. And for Derek Lawson, there was no going back. Badge gone, job gone, millions in liabilities. His arrogance, his bias, and his extreme racism had caught up with him in the harshest, most public way possible. Even weeks later, the street where it all went down was still buzzing in conversation. People would say, "Yo, remember that rookie who tried to shove an FBI agent? Man, he got smoked online." The viral clips became teaching material, examples in training sessions, evidence in discussions about bias, racism, and police reform. Derek Lawson's extreme racism had created a permanent record of his downfall, and Malik Carter had turned a dangerous, reckless encounter into a public display of professionalism, patience, and power. The lesson? Extreme racism doesn't just stay hidden. It gets exposed. It gets recorded. And when arrogance meets authority without accountability, it destroys the people who think they're untouchable. Derek Lawson had learned it the hardest way possible, and the world had watched it all unfold. Man, the aftermath? Straight up insane. Derek Lawson, rookie cop, was now a cautionary tale everyone was talking about, locally, nationally, and online. Every video clip, every screenshot, every viral post was replayed, dissected, and shared. People couldn't believe the arrogance, the bias, the extreme racism on full display. Phones were buzzing nonstop, notifications piling up like crazy. The dude had gone from thinking his badge made him untouchable to being public enemy number one. His ego shattered. His career gone. His reputation obliterated. Malik Carter, meanwhile, was calm as ever, professional, collected, but the energy around him was intense. People stopped him on the street, recording clips, asking questions, praising him for handling the situation with absolute mastery. He didn't flex, didn't brag, didn't make a show of it, but everyone could feel the power radiating off him. Every move he made during the encounter had been deliberate, strategic, and the world had witnessed how professionalism can dismantle arrogance fueled by racism. The legal fallout was next level. Derek Lawson wasn't just fired. He faced lawsuits, internal disciplinary hearings, city investigations, and civil claims. Malik and his legal team made sure the rookie's recklessness and bias were on record, emphasizing that extreme racism in uniform wasn't just morally wrong. It was criminally negligent and financially catastrophic. The rookie cop had to pay $3.5 million in damages. Millions. A number he couldn't even wrap his head around. His bank account, his family, his plans, wrecked by his own arrogance and prejudice. Social media and the news didn't let up. Clips of Derek's shoving, muttered racial slurs, and public humiliation became reference points for discussions about racism in law enforcement. Everyone from students to professionals to activists used it as an example. Extreme racism in uniform could destroy careers, harm communities, and expose the dangerous mindset some cops carried unchecked. People shared it as a warning, a lesson, a call for change. Meanwhile, the city itself started responding. Internal Affairs revamped rookie training. Supervisors introduced mandatory bias awareness workshops, and law enforcement agencies started acknowledging the culture problem Derek had highlighted in the worst way possible. Malik's calm authority, patience, and discipline became a benchmark for professionals everywhere. People watched, learned, and realized that confronting bias wasn't about anger. It was about control, poise, and letting the truth speak louder than words. The public reaction was wild. People on the street, in comment sections, and across news platforms were debating the situation endlessly. "Yo, he almost killed a black FBI agent with his ego," one post read. "This kid's arrogance got him destroyed." "Good," another said. Malik didn't need to comment. The proof was in the video, the fallout, the viral clips, and the destroyed reputation of Derek Lawson. Extreme racism had consequences, plain and simple. Even months later, schools, training centers, and police workshops used Derek Lawson's case as an example. Videos analyzed the way bias escalated to near violence, showing how one person's arrogance, fueled by racism, could endanger lives and ruin careers. Malik Carter's calm presence and professional handling of the situation became a lesson in authority, integrity, and courage under pressure. And for Derek Lawson, his life had changed forever. Gone was the confidence, the ego, the illusion of untouchability. Every phone notification, every viral clip, every article reminded him of one thing: extreme racism isn't just morally wrong. It's destructive, public, and impossible to hide in the modern world. He had learned the harshest lesson of all: the world is watching, and bias will always be exposed. Malik walked away from the chaos with nothing but his professionalism and integrity intact. No celebration, no boasting, just calm, collected authority that made the world see exactly who was in control. The rookie cop's arrogance had collided with extreme professionalism, and the world had taken notes. People felt the fear, the outrage, the tension, the lesson. They felt how dangerous bias could be, and how standing firm could expose it in the harshest, most public way possible. The city, the witnesses, and the world never forgot. Derek Lawson's extreme racism, reckless authority, and arrogance became a permanent example of what happens when someone thinks they're above accountability. Malik Carter's calm, disciplined approach became a symbol of power, integrity, and the truth that bias and racism cannot survive in the light. And at the end of the day, that was the lesson for everyone watching, recording, and sharing. Extreme racism gets exposed. Arrogance gets punished. Recklessness gets recorded. And professionalism, patience, and integrity, that's the power that lasts. Yo, the aftermath didn't just settle, it exploded. Derek Lawson's life was officially a dumpster fire. Every single action, every shove, every racial slur, every twitch of arrogance had gone viral, looping endlessly across social media feeds, news outlets, and public discussions. The streets themselves felt like they were still vibrating from the tension that day. People were talking about it weeks later. In coffee shops, in offices, even kids in schools were sharing clips like cautionary tales. The extreme racism? Oh, it wasn't hidden anymore. It was on full display for the world to judge. Inside the precinct, The panic and whispers had turned into organized chaos. Internal Affairs was combing through every angle, every detail, meticulously. Emails flew like missiles. Supervisors, city officials, legal teams, everyone chiming in. Derek's defense? Weak. Pathetic. I thought he was resisting. I didn't mean... Words stumbled out of his mouth like a broken record, and nobody cared. Not the supervisors, not Malik Carter, not the public. Every word he uttered was just another proof point for how reckless and biased he had been. Extreme racism exposed. No excuses. Malik? Calm as ice, professional as ever. But even he could feel the weight of what had happened. He wasn't celebrating. He wasn't even relieved yet. But he knew that every decision he made, every inch of patience he held, had prevented a potentially lethal outcome. The rookie cop's bias, his arrogance, had escalated the moment, and Malik's control had turned it into a lesson for the whole damn world. He made the danger visible, undeniable, and utterly humiliating for the person who tried to wield authority with racism as a weapon. The legal consequences for Derek escalated fast. He lost his badge, yes, but that was just the start. Lawsuits piled in, threatening to strip him of $3.5 million. Civil rights violations, reckless endangerment, racial harassment. Every charge stacked against him like a tower. Insurance premiums skyrocketed. His reputation was in shambles. And the media coverage painted him as the poster child for what happens when racism and power collide. There was no coming back from this. His arrogance, bias, and reckless actions had carved a permanent scar into his professional and personal life. Meanwhile, social media was relentless. Every new clip, every new angle, every slow-motion replay of him shoving Malik Carter, muttering racial slurs, or failing to comprehend his own arrogance reignited outrage. Hashtags trended globally. Hashtag racist cop exposed. Hashtag FBI hero. Hashtag Lawson Falls. People debated endlessly. Street corners, online forums, workplaces, classrooms. Everyone was talking about it. Derek Lawson had become a living warning. Extreme racism doesn't stay hidden. It gets amplified, documented, and remembered. Malik's calm professionalism became a benchmark. News outlets analyzed his every move, praising the way he held authority without aggression, showing how patience, intelligence, and presence can outmatch arrogance, bias, and reckless authority. Schools and police academies used the incident as a case study. Videos dissected his movements, decisions, and demeanor. The public saw how control and professionalism expose reckless racism, and they learned from it. Malik had turned a dangerous encounter into a live teaching moment for millions. And Derek? Man, he was crumbling under the weight of exposure. The public humiliation, viral videos, legal threats, and media coverage were relentless. He couldn't leave his apartment without someone whispering, pointing, or recording. His extreme racism, once hidden behind a uniform and ego, had been broadcast to millions. Every interaction, every public outing reminded him of his failure, his arrogance, and his bias. He wasn't just losing money or a badge. He was losing his identity, his credibility, and his illusions of authority. The ripple effects reached far beyond Derek Lawson himself. Internal reviews led to new bias awareness programs, mandatory training, and stricter supervision of rookies in the department. Conversations sparked across the country about how bias in uniform could escalate to violence if unchecked. Malik Carter became a symbol, not just of calm under pressure, but of the real consequences of confronting racism and holding it accountable in the most public, undeniable way. Even months later, footage of the incident circulated in classrooms, community centers, and online forums. Analysts broke down Derek Lawson's behavior: the shoves, the muttered slurs, the reckless authority, the bias-driven decisions. Students, trainees, and the general public saw it and learned. Extreme racism can't hide. Arrogance in uniform comes with consequences. And professionalism, patience, and courage can expose it for the world to see. By the time Derek tried to salvage what was left of his life, the damage was permanent. Millions in liabilities, a destroyed career, and a public reputation ruined forever. Extreme racism had collided with accountability, and the fallout was both swift and brutal. Meanwhile, Malik Carter continued his career, respected, untouchable in authority and integrity, proving that discipline and patience outweigh arrogance and bias every single time. The lesson? It wasn't subtle. It wasn't hidden. Extreme racism gets exposed. Reckless authority gets punished. Arrogance collapses when the world is watching. Malik's professionalism became a blueprint. Derek Lawson's failure became a cautionary tale. And the world? It watched, learned, and remembered. The shadow of arrogance and racism had been long, but the light of accountability had burned even longer. By this point, the city was buzzing like it had been electrified. Derek Lawson's name was everywhere, on social media, news cycles, and literally in street chatter. Every corner, every coffee shop, every bus ride, someone was talking about the rookie cop who tried to bully a black FBI agent, only to get humiliated in front of the world. The extreme racism he displayed? It wasn't subtle. It was screaming from every clip, every muttered slur, every reckless shove. People were still watching the viral videos, replaying the moment he lost all control, and shaking their heads like, damn, he thought his badge meant he could do whatever he wanted. Inside the precinct, things had shifted forever. Training sessions were now mandatory for rookies, emphasizing bias awareness and the consequences of unchecked arrogance. Supervisors cited the Derek Lawson incident as a textbook example of how extreme racism in uniform could escalate into a public disaster. Internal Affairs kept every piece of footage, every witness statement, every detail meticulously documented. And Derek, he was spiraling, faster than anyone could contain. His calls weren't being returned. His family was embarrassed, and every attempt to defend himself publicly just made him look worse. Extreme racism had left him exposed, and there was no clean way out. Meanwhile, Malik Carter's reputation was skyrocketing. Every news outlet, every post online, every classroom discussion cited his calm, collected, and professional handling of the situation. People were dissecting his every move, amazed at how he kept his composure, while Derek's bias and arrogance crumbled in real time. He didn't have to raise his voice, didn't have to push back aggressively. He just let the rookie's extreme racism speak for itself, and it had. The lesson was clear. Patience, authority, and professionalism demolish arrogance and bias every time. Public outrage was relentless. Hashtags like racist cop exposed, hashtag FBI hero, hashtag Lawson destroyed were trending for days, reposted by millions. Comment sections were flooded with anger, disbelief, and calls for reform. People were analyzing every detail, every step of Derek Lawson's reckless behavior, and pointing out how extreme racism in law enforcement isn't just harmful, it's dangerous. The outrage wasn't fleeting. It was a living, breathing reminder of what happens when bias meets unchecked authority. Legally, Derek's world had imploded. $3.5 million in damages loomed over him, lawsuits piling up, insurance premiums skyrocketing, and job opportunities evaporating. Every phone notification reminded him of his failure. Every viral clip reminded him of his humiliation. Every whisper in public reminded him that extreme racism had consequences. He had thought his badge made him untouchable, but now the world had shown him that arrogance and bias could destroy everything in a heartbeat. Meanwhile, Malik continued his work, unshaken, calm, collected, authoritative, and respected. Every interaction he had after the incident reminded people that professionalism isn't just about following rules. It's about exposing injustice, maintaining composure, and letting truth and evidence speak louder than arrogance. The city, the precinct, the public all saw what happens when someone stands firm against extreme racism, and Malik became a symbol of that unwavering authority. Even weeks later, the incident was still being referenced. Police academies used the Derek Lawson encounter as a case study. Schools showed the clips to discuss bias, authority, and accountability. Community groups hosted discussions about the dangers of unchecked prejudice in uniform. Every replay, every discussion reinforced the same lesson. Extreme racism doesn't go unnoticed. It doesn't go unpunished. And when someone abuses their authority with bias in mind, the world is watching, recording, and judging. For Derek Lawson, the shame, the financial burden, the legal consequences, and the public humiliation were a constant weight. Every attempt to salvage his life failed. His career, destroyed. His reputation, in ruins. His arrogance and extreme racism had backfired in the harshest way imaginable. Meanwhile, Malik Carter's composure and integrity became legendary. Proof that patience, control, and professionalism don't just protect lives. They expose injustice in the harshest, most undeniable way possible. By the time the dust settled, one thing was clear. The streets, the cameras, the witnesses, and the internet had all documented what extreme racism and reckless authority look like in real life. Derek Lawson's downfall was permanent. Malik Carter's authority and composure were immortalized, and the lesson burned into the minds of everyone who watched. Arrogance, bias, and racism in uniform have consequences you can't escape. Accountability isn't optional. Integrity always wins. The city, the viewers, and the world had seen it, and they wouldn't forget it. Ever. Yo, the streets were still buzzing, man. Derek Lawson's screw-up wasn't just a local story anymore. It had gone viral, trending everywhere. Phones were buzzing, notifications blowing up. People replaying the clips of him losing his cool, his bias showing in real time, and muttering slurs like it was nothing. Everyone was talking about how reckless he'd been, how his arrogance and extreme racism had just exposed him for the world to see. The videos weren't just clips. They were evidence, lessons, proof that when bias meets authority, disaster follows. Inside the precinct, the atmosphere was tense. Supervisors were pacing, phones ringing nonstop, internal affairs pulling every detail together. Rookie training programs were paused, and discussions about bias, authority, and accountability exploded. Every officer who watched the footage felt the weight. How one person's arrogance and racial bias could endanger lives and destroy a career in seconds. Derek's actions weren't isolated. They became a warning, a lesson, a blueprint for what not to do. Meanwhile, Malik Carter stayed cool as ice, calm, collected, professional. He didn't need to yell or argue. Every shove Derek threw, every slur he muttered, every twitch of aggression played out in front of witnesses and cameras. Malik's discipline and control highlighted the rookie's failure in real time, and the contrast was undeniable. People online were dissecting every move, praising Malik for his authority under pressure, and shaking their heads at Derek's reckless behavior. Extreme racism had collided with professionalism, and the outcome was crystal clear. The public? They weren't holding back. Hashtags were trending globally. Hashtag racist cop exposed. Hashtag FBI hero. Hashtag Lawson destroyed. Every social media platform was flooded with reactions, clips, commentary, debates, and outrage. People posted analysis videos, slow-motion breakdowns, and discussions about systemic bias in law enforcement. Schools, universities, and training programs started using the clips as real-life case studies. The incident wasn't just news. It was now a movement, a lesson for anyone who thought bias in uniform could hide behind a badge. Legally, Derek's world collapsed. $3.5 million in damages loomed over him. Lawsuits piling high, insurance premiums skyrocketing. He couldn't escape the consequences. Every viral clip, every post, every notification was a reminder that his arrogance and extreme racism had permanently destroyed his career. People weren't just angry, they were judging, analyzing, and ensuring he couldn't wiggle out of accountability. His reputation obliterated. His professional credibility gone. His life in pieces. City officials and law enforcement agencies reacted fast. Bias awareness programs went into overdrive. Mandatory training sessions for all rookies emphasized the dangers of unchecked arrogance and extreme racism. Supervisors used the Derek Lawson incident as a textbook example of how one person's prejudice could spiral into a public disaster. The conversation wasn't just about Derek. It was about the system, about authority, and about ensuring this kind of reckless behavior never happened again. Meanwhile, Malik Carter continued his work, calm and professional, letting his actions speak louder than words. He wasn't gloating. He didn't need to, but the public saw the contrast: arrogance versus integrity, recklessness versus discipline. Every interview, every clip analyzed, every article praising him reinforced the lesson. Patience and professionalism always beat bias and reckless authority. Even months later, the ripple effects were everywhere. Community leaders, educators, activists, and social media users were still discussing the incident. Town halls, assemblies, and online forums dissected every moment of Derek's extreme racism, analyzing how easily authority could be abused. Malik's calm handling of the situation was highlighted as a benchmark of how to face danger without escalating it. The story wasn't fading. It was living, breathing, and teaching lessons everywhere it was shared. And Derek? Man, he was buried under the weight of it all. His arrogance, bias, and extreme racism weren't just public. They were permanent. Every notification, every viral replay, every whispered conversation reminded him of what he'd done. The financial and social consequences were immense. His professional future wiped out, his reputation shredded. Every mistake he made was now immortalized in footage and discussion, a permanent lesson for anyone who thought bias in uniform could ever be hidden. Malik Carter, meanwhile, moved forward, untouchable in authority and integrity. His career, his reputation, his professionalism solidified by the public witnessing him face extreme racism without losing composure. The contrast couldn't have been starker. Extreme arrogance, bias, and recklessness destroyed Derek Lawson, while calm authority, patience, and professionalism elevated Malik Carter in the eyes of the world. By the time the city, the public, and social media had absorbed it all, one thing was crystal clear. Extreme racism in uniform doesn't hide. Arrogance and recklessness have consequences. Accountability is inevitable. And professionalism, patience, and integrity? That's the power that lasts, long after the arrogance is gone. Man, by now, the city, the media, and the entire online world were obsessed with Derek Lawson. He wasn't just a rookie cop who messed up. He had become the living example of what happens when arrogance and extreme racism collide with authority. Every clip of him shoving Malik Carter, every slur he muttered, every reckless move was being replayed, dissected, and used as proof that bias in uniform wasn't just harmful. It was dangerous as hell. People weren't just talking. They were analyzing every inch of his behavior, debating how one dude could be so reckless and so blinded by his own prejudice. The fallout? Massive. Derek's $3.5 million liability loomed over him like a dark cloud. Lawsuits stacking up, insurance premiums off the charts, and job prospects completely gone. Every day, he woke up to notifications reminding him of how publicly his arrogance and racism had been exposed. His reputation? Obliterated. His career? Non-existent. His personal life? Shattered. The extreme racism he displayed wasn't a secret anymore. It was a permanent scar broadcast across news feeds, social media, and classrooms. Meanwhile, Malik Carter was still standing tall, calm as ever, letting his professionalism speak louder than Derek's arrogance ever could. He didn't need to rub it in. He let the videos, the legal consequences, and the public outrage do that for him. Every interview he gave, every news story featuring him, only reinforced the lesson. Patience, discipline, and professionalism expose bias and arrogance in ways aggression never can. People were learning from him, taking notes, showing clips in schools, police academies, and community workshops. Malik's authority wasn't just respected, it was studied. The public wasn't done either. Hashtags like racist cop exposed, FBI hero, and Lawson accountable kept trending. People on TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter dissected every clip, every moment, every reaction. Activists used it to push for reform. Educators used it as a real-life example of bias in authority. Town halls, panel discussions, and workshops examined Derek Lawson's actions to show how extreme racism could escalate into life-threatening situations and catastrophic career failures. The city itself started rethinking training, supervision, and accountability measures for all officers, with Derek's extreme arrogance as the case study. Even months later, the ripple effects were impossible to ignore. Social media, news cycles, and community discussions still reference him. Any attempt he made to justify himself fell flat. Every post, every statement, every interview only reminded people of his failure. Extreme racism in uniform wasn't just morally wrong. It was public, permanent, and punishable. Derek Lawson had learned it the hardest way possible. Meanwhile, Malik Carter's career kept climbing. His calm authority and professional handling of the incident became a benchmark. Every news outlet, every law enforcement training session, every online discussion referenced him. People saw that real power doesn't come from a badge or a uniform. It comes from integrity, discipline, and the courage to face extreme racism without letting it push you off balance. He had turned a potentially deadly encounter into a lesson for the entire world, and the public noticed. The legal system had spoken loud and clear. Derek's termination lawsuits, and $3.5 million damages were only part of the consequence. Public opinion, viral evidence, and permanent exposure had destroyed any illusion of invincibility he had. He had tried to wield authority with bias in mind, but the world had documented every failure. The extreme racism that once seemed invisible in uniform now defined him, permanently, publicly, and unchangeably. The city, the witnesses, and the world learned a powerful lesson. Bias and arrogance in positions of authority will always be exposed. Recklessness has consequences. Public scrutiny is relentless. And professionalism, patience, and integrity, that's the real power. The kind that outlasts viral clips, legal battles, and public outrage. Malik Carter's composure became a blueprint, and Derek Lawson's failure became a permanent warning for anyone thinking extreme racism can hide behind a badge. And so, the story lived on, not just as clips online, not just as headlines, but as a constant, visible lesson for the city, the country, and anyone who had ever thought arrogance and bias in uniform could go unchecked. Extreme racism had collided with accountability, and the results were explosive, permanent, and undeniable.